a single mother, a troubled past, and a dangerous stranger. What happens when a man on the run finds refuge in the home of a lonely woman and her son? Is he a threat or a chance at a new beginning? Because in a world where love and danger collide, choices aren't just difficult, they're life-changing. This is Labor Day, a story of survival, sacrifice, and a connection that was never meant to happen. The story begins with a woman named Mandy, who lives alone with her son, Henry. Her life hasn't been the same since her husband left her for another woman. The heartbreak left her withdrawn, and now she rarely steps out of the house. Henry, her only source of comfort, does everything he can to take care of his mother. He knows she's struggling, and he tries to be the support she needs. One day, they go to a store to buy groceries. As Henry looks around, a stranger approaches him. The man, injured and desperate, introduces himself as Frank. He asks Henry for help. Uncertain and hesitant, Henry refuses. But Frank insists, saying that his mother, Mandy, seems like a kind woman, someone who wouldn't turn him away. Frank then walks up to Mandy and asks for a ride. She refuses, sensing something off. But before she can react, Frank grabs Henry. His voice is calm, but his grip is firm. Mandy has no choice. She agrees. As they drive, Mandy asks him where he wants to go. Frank simply says, "Your house." Confused and afraid, she doesn't argue. Once they arrive, Frank finally explains. He's an escaped convict. He was in prison awaiting surgery, but he managed to escape. He claims he isn't a dangerous man, just someone who wants to lay low until nightfall. Mandy is still wary. She asks him how she can trust him. Frank reassures her. He says he has never hurt anyone intentionally. In fact, to prove himself, he even offers to help around the house. Later, as they watch TV, a news report confirms Mandy's worst fears. Frank is a wanted fugitive, and the police are actively searching for him. Realizing the danger, Frank ties Mandy up, but not to hurt her. Instead, he gently feeds her dinner himself. Henry, worried for his mother, sneaks out of his room late at night. He fears that Frank might try to harm her. But when he checks, he sees something unexpected. Frank is sleeping downstairs, while Mandy is safe in her room. The next morning, Frank sits with Henry for breakfast. As they eat, Henry opens up about his family. He shares how his father left his mother for another woman. Frank listens, then shakes his head. Then he remarks, "Your dad is a fool. How could he leave someone like your mom?" Their conversation continues, and soon, Mandy joins them. By now, Frank has untied her. He invites her to eat. After breakfast, Frank starts helping around the house. He fixes things, cleans up, and even repairs Mandy's car. Slowly, the tension begins to ease. One afternoon, as Mandy applies medicine to Frank's wounds, they hear a knock at the door. Frank reacts instantly. He grabs Mandy and signals Henry to open the door. Henry hesitates, but does as he's told. Outside, it's just a friendly neighbor, an elderly man who stops by to drop off some fresh fruit. He asks about Mandy, but Henry quickly replies, "She's busy right now." Before leaving, the man warns Henry about an escaped convict on the loose. He advises him to keep the doors locked and never open them without his mother. As soon as he's gone, Frank smiles at Henry, impressed by how well he handled the situation. But Mandy isn't happy. She sends Henry inside and turns to Frank. Furious, she says, "He's just a child. You can't force him to lie for you." Frank doesn't argue. Instead, he distracts them by suggesting they cook something together. Later, as they prepare a meal, something shifts between them. The fear, the uncertainty, it fades. For the first time in a long time, Mandy lets her guard down. Frank moves closer. She doesn't step away. That night, as Henry goes to his room, Mandy and Frank stay behind. But outside, the police are still searching. Frank knows he can't stay much longer. He tells Mandy, "I have to leave. If I stay, you and Henry will be in danger." Mandy looks at him, conflicted. She doesn't want him to go. She says, "Stay, just for tonight." Frank hesitates, then agrees. The next morning, Frank busies himself fixing things around the house. He cleans, repairs, and makes sure everything is in order. Meanwhile, Mandy sends Henry out to buy some groceries. As soon as he leaves, she turns to Frank. The house is quiet, the tension is gone, and she takes his hand, and just like that, they begin to dance. Henry, on his way back from the market, notices something disturbing. A police officer is putting up wanted posters with Frank's face on them. The officer warns him to be careful. By the time Henry returns home, he finds something even more unsettling. His mother, completely lost in the moment with Frank. Before he can say anything, there's a knock at the door. Mandy's friend has arrived. Henry rushes to her, offering to call his mom, but she cuts him off. She has something important to ask. She needs someone to watch over her son, Barry, for a while. At first, Mandy refuses. She already has too much to handle. But her friend insists, and eventually she gives in. Later that afternoon, Frank takes everyone outside for a game of baseball. Laughter fills the air. For a moment, everything feels normal, but that peace doesn't last long. That night, as they gather around the TV, Mandy's friend returns. The moment she steps inside, Frank quietly disappears into another room. Then suddenly, a scream. Barry points at the TV. Frank's face is on the screen. Confused, his mother scolds him, not realizing what he's trying to say. She doesn't understand. But if she had, everything would have changed. The next morning, Mandy and Frank send Henry to the library to pick up some books. There, he meets a girl named Eleanor. She's new in town and will soon be joining his school. As they talk, she shares something personal. Her mother sent her to live with her dad, as if she just wanted to get rid of her. Henry listens, then hesitantly reveals that his mother has also let someone new into their home. Frank's presence has changed everything. That evening, Henry's father takes him out for dinner with his new family. He asks about school, but Henry barely answers. Later, as they leave, his father's tone shifts. He asks if Mandy has been seeing someone. Henry doesn't reply. When he returns home, he hears loud music playing. Inside, Mandy and Frank are dancing, lost in their own world. Henry watches for a moment, then steps forward and asks his mother to lower the volume. Mandy turns to him, her eyes filled with something he doesn't quite understand. She tells him the truth. Since his father left, she's been alone. But now, with Frank, she finally feels alive again. They're leaving. They'll go to Canada. Henry's heart sinks. He feels like she's choosing Frank over him. But Mandy reassuring him, he isn't being left behind. He's coming with them. The next morning, they start packing. It's time to leave. Henry visits Eleanor one last time to say goodbye. When he tells her about Canada, she looks at him for a moment, then leans in and kisses him. They had just become friends, and now he was leaving. Meanwhile, Mandy and Frank sit together, sharing pieces of their past. Mandy opens up first. After Henry was born, she wanted another child. But every time she tried, something went wrong. Miscarriage after miscarriage. Then, finally, she carried a pregnancy to term. But when the moment came, her baby was stillborn. Her husband never looked at her the same way again. Eventually, he left. She lowers her voice, almost hesitant. She can't have children anymore. Frank listens, then simply says they already have a child. Henry is theirs. For the first time, Mandy allows herself to believe it. Then, Frank shares his own story. He once had a wife, a daughter, a family. But his marriage was built on lies. His wife had affairs with multiple men, and deep down, he always doubted if his daughter was really his. One night, an argument turned violent. In the heat of the moment, he pushed his wife. The impact killed her instantly. In the chaos, his daughter slipped into the bathtub. By the time he reached her, it was too late. That's how he ended up here. A man with nothing left. The scene shifts to the present. Henry sits at his desk, writing a letter to his father. Once finished, he heads out to mail it. On his way back, a police officer stops him. Suspicious, the officer asks what he's doing there. Henry stays calm and says he's just out for a walk. The officer isn't convinced. He insists on walking Henry home. As they approach the house, Mandy spots them. Her heart pounds. The officer asks if Henry skipped school that day. Trying to stay composed, Mandy replies that he was just about to leave. Then, something catches the officer's eye. Mandy's car packed with bags. He questions her. Is she going somewhere? Mandy hesitates, then forces a smile. She tells him she's selling some things. From upstairs, Frank watches everything. The officer isn't entirely convinced. Stepping inside, he glances around, looking for anything unusual. But the house is quiet, normal. After a moment, he turns and leaves. As soon as the police officer leaves, Frank tells Mandy to withdraw some cash from a bank. She takes Henry with her and heads out. At the bank, the teller hesitates when she sees the large withdrawal request. She asks why Mandy needs so much cash. Mandy keeps her answer vague, saying she needs to buy something important. Before the teller can process it, the bank manager steps in. He's suspicious. It isn't normal for someone like Mandy to withdraw so much money at once. But before things get worse, Henry quickly lightens the mood, cracking a joke. The manager relaxes, assuming there's nothing unusual. He approves the withdrawal. Meanwhile, back at the house, Mandy's friend arrives. She isn't expecting to see Frank. Surprised, she asks about Mandy. Frank tells her she took Henry to school, but something feels off. The house looks different, as if someone is preparing to leave. She hesitates, then asks if Mandy is planning to go somewhere. Frank shrugs and says he isn't sure. She doesn't push further. Without another word, she turns and walks away. A little later, Mandy and Henry return home. Frank looks at Henry and tells him something unexpected. His father called. He received Henry's letter. Without wasting a second, Henry rushes to his room to call him back. Frank follows behind, but suddenly the sound of sirens fills the air. The police have arrived. Thinking fast, Frank ties Mandy and Henry to chairs, making it look like a kidnapping. If the police believe they were hostages, they won't be arrested for helping him. Mandy watches in shock as Frank looks at her one last time. He knows there's no way out. If he wants to protect them, he has to surrender. Without hesitation, he walks outside and turns himself in. The officers take him into custody, then enter the house to untie Mandy and Henry. Just as Frank planned, they assume he had kidnapped them. As the police car drives away, Mandy stands frozen, watching Frank disappear into the distance. The next day, she meets with a lawyer. She pleads Frank's case, insisting that he isn't a dangerous man, that he never harmed them. The lawyer listens, but his expression remains firm. Frank's charges are severe. His case could take years to fight. And worse, since she's shelter fugitive, she and Henry could also face legal trouble. Mandy grips the edge of the desk, realization sinking in. And then, the worst news arrives. Frank is sentenced to 25 years in prison. Mandy tries everything. She visits the prison daily, but they refuse to let her see him. She writes him letters, pouring her heart out, but no reply ever comes. As time passes, Mandy makes a difficult choice. She sends Henry to live with his father. Years go by. One day, Frank walks out of prison, a free man. When she sees him, she smiles through her tears. After all these years, he's finally home. Henry is grown now, living his own life with his girlfriend. And as the past fades, a new beginning starts. The story ends here. What did you think of this story? Would you have made the same choices as Mandy? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more amazing stories to you. See you in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy,